Well, this is Joelle Nabi, and I'm going to say welcome to everybody. I'm very glad you're here. I'm sorry some had to wait. We had some confusing start times, but we typically do start at 11:30 and go from 11:30 to 1. Just so you know, we've had some evening meetings in the past, but we don't have any of those planned for right now. But I want to remind everybody, ensure you're muted with your video turned off. That conserves our bandwidth, enhances the performance of Zoom. The meeting is being recorded, and a link will be forwarded to everybody so they can view it, especially for those who couldn't attend live. Use the chat feature to ask questions or make comments. I will monitor the chat feature and try to get you an answer, interrupting the speaker if I need to. So use that chat feature. For best viewing, you'd want to use the view speaker feature or the active speaker option for Macs, so you're not seeing, you see just who's talking. So I think we're ready to go. I'm going to turn it over to Abby. You ready, Abby? We're not hearing you, Abby. Dorothy, is Abby unmuted?
Abby's still muted.
You want to turn her off, see if maybe she's talking?
I'm not able to turn her.
Oh, you can't do that.
No, I can turn her off, but not on.
Okay. Let me try to text her. I don't know what's going on. I tell you what, let me just introduce Karen. I don't know what's holding Abby up, but let me introduce Karen. I got her bio here. Karen is with the City of Dallas. She's the city forester. And I'm looking for my script here. But she has degrees in horticultural, environmental science, and Master of Science. She has a Master of Science in Forestry. She came to the City of Dallas from the Texas Forest Service, where she worked as a regional urban forester. Her last assignment for the Texas Forest Service was the Hurricane Rita Urban Tree Recovery Project. And as forester now for the City of Dallas, she assists all departments with tree issues and teaches city personnel and the public on all things relating to trees. She's going to talk about choosing, pruning, and caring for trees in our urban setting. If there's anything I left out, Karen, please feel free. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours. And make sure you're unmuted.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Huh. It is.
We're not seeing your PowerPoint. We see you, but not your PowerPoint.
That's disturbing. Let's try again.
Yeah, we had it earlier, didn't we?
I know. And I did exactly the same thing.
There it goes. Not just click though, start from the beginning and you're good.
Yeah. And I will tell everyone in the audience from the start that this was really hard to get into a short period of time. Pruning alone usually takes a minimum of 3 hours. So we may go through it fairly quickly, but as I told the folks early on, was that I will provide a PDF of the presentation. So, because I'm all about pictures. So you can go through this at your leisure, save the pictures you want, or whatever you need. So trees, choosing, pruning, and maintaining. Broad subject, but first we'll start with right tree, right place, which is critical for when choosing your tree. Remember this picture, because that picture will show up multiple times. This is how a tree grows. The roots don't grow straight down, they grow out. So why are you planting? There can be so many reasons, but beautification, screen for noise, you're next to a loud road. Perfect example is a lot of people back up to Preston Road, which is just like a highway. And so they're planting to screen and help with the noise, or screen for sight, which can be, if you can picture your backyard backs up to a strip mall or a big box store or grocery store. So then you're planting for screening, just for visibility so you don't see that big blank wall. But do you know your tree? And which comes first? The tree or the place you're going to plant it? And part of do you know your tree, trees come very small when you plant them, but they don't stay that way, right? So do you have the space? Can you keep the crown if you're planting in front of your house? Can you keep the crown of the tree above the 15-foot clearance, right? And for those of you who don't know and that live in the city of Dallas, that is part of city codes. That is driven by, excuse me, that's driven by the need of fire trucks to get down the street. And, if we need them, we want them to be able to get down the street. And the ladder truck in particular needs a 15-foot clearance. So there's a lot to remember when you're choosing a tree. I will tell you right now, I'm the world's worst for choosing a tree before I choose the place to plant it, which is not necessarily a good thing unless you have a very large yard or acreage, and most of us don't have that. So this photo shows you all the reasons to plant, but also where to plant. So one of the things we'll talk about again in a few minutes is, let's say, can you see my arrow? Let's say this is the south side of the house. So you would be planting a large tree for shade, but you've got to watch for the power lines, all of this, and how much room do I have in the parkway, which is the #1 popular reason to plant and one of the hardest. And again, we'll go into that in a couple minutes. So more questions. Back to, where is the sun at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in August? Our hottest time of the year most of the time. Although with the last couple of years, you never know this. But where is the heat coming from? And do I have room to fit a large shade to provide shade? Just not for me in the backyard. It's for your home. It decreases, it cools your roof. It cools your attic. It decreases your electric bill for your air conditioning, all those good things. But more, why are you planting shade, color, wildlife? There's a lot of folks that contact me asking, I want more bird activity. I want pollinators for my veggie garden. I want fruit trees. So the reasons for planting are very long and it's very personal, but you've got to ask those questions about space also. And how far from structures or hardscape are you planting? Remember, they don't stay the same size they are when you're planting. Do you know what the mature size of the tree is? And that means the root flare, that means the crown width, not just height. People seem to buy for height and then forget about all those other factors. So what the last question, can it be adjusted depending on tree size? What I mean is, if you have a picnic table or a bench in your backyard, that's easily moved, right? When your tree starts to get big, big, big. But if you planted it too close to your house, you can't move your house. You planted it too close to the fence and it ends up being a 45-inch diameter tree that now is pushing. You can't move your fence necessarily unless you're really good, on really good terms with your neighbors. So those things have to be thought of prior. Now, the one thing that needs to be foremost, the mantra is look up, look down, look all around. Okay? You not only have above ground utilities, you also have underground utilities. And you always hear the commercials that say, call 811 before you dig, which is good. You should do that. But you can also call 811 to find out where your underground utilities are during the planning stage, when you're trying to decide what tree, what space. If you already have that in mind, where the underground utilities are, then you might not get yourself into trouble. Let's say you go out and purchase a tree, or you have a tree scheduled to be planted by a landscape or tree company in a certain spot, and then you find out there's a gas line right through there, and then you've got to move it. Well, now do you have space for it? So planning is, besides knowing what tree you're going to get and how big it's going to get, planning is definitely something you need to do. So this is that same picture that you saw earlier. It's just giving you a better idea of the different sizes, and then we can go more in depth about this. It also gives you growing space, and what that means is available soil. That's not necessarily talking about the crown width of a large shade tree. And the best example of that is that you would only need probably maximum 40 to 50 feet for a chinkapin oak or Shumard oak crown, but you would need a minimum of 60-foot distance for a crown width of a live oak. So there's a big difference in there. This also shows planting smaller trees underneath the utility lines. Now, I will tell you, this is a crepe myrtle. We actually designed these when I was with the Texas Forest Service, so I know them really well. Designed these with crepe myrtles under distribution power lines, right? That a lot of people in the city of Dallas and all over North Texas have in the back of their yard. Here's the problem. It's showing a crepe myrtle, but a crepe myrtle can get far taller than most people think. If you let them go and you get a standard, it can grow well over 25 feet tall. The difference between this and a shade tree is that biologically, crepe myrtles are bushes. They're shrubs. They're not trees. They're classified as small trees all the time, but their biological makeup is shrubs. So they can be pruned like trees cannot be pruned. So you can keep them. But again, everybody just automatically goes for crepe myrtles and things like that, where a red bud might actually be better, especially the single stem they have now. With regards to street trees, so it's putting in there a medium-sized tree. All right, but will your medium-sized tree get tall enough where you can lift the crown over the back of the curb to a minimum height of 15 feet? That's things you've got to know. Most medians, it's going to be barely. You don't want to leave a tree with half the crown it needs to survive. Trees know how much leaf surface area, crown, vascular system they need to survive, let alone thrive. And when you over prune a tree, you shorten the life of the tree because it doesn't have what it needs to, again, survive, let alone thrive. The other thing that you've got to think about is sidewalks. You see this damage all over town. If you plant most of the oaks and even some of the elms in this position, the root flare, the trunk will be so large that the primary lateral roots that come off the bottom of the tree will actually shove the sidewalk, because sidewalks are floating concrete, which is why roots could grow underneath them. There's all of the available water and air that is necessary versus a street, especially our modern streets. There's some very old towns that just have the floating asphalt on top of the ground. But ours has such a deep base that tree roots don't grow underneath there unless there's already a crack to allow available air and water to get down into the soil. So they will grow this direction. So that's a lot of things to remember, but those things you need to know and think about before choosing your tree. So do you know your tree? You know, we do research before we buy a refrigerator, a car, even a house. But people forget to do research on a tree. Does it have any catastrophic diseases that you might lose that tree? Does it have other insect problems? Insects are very species specific. So you can learn all that. But also what we talked about before, the size of a mature tree, whether it is trunk size, so diameter, or crowned width, natural form. How do live oaks grow? They grow horizontal, and we're about to see that real clearly here in a second. And what's the height of the tree? So, live oaks. This is a development in the city of Dallas. Now, developers can buy mass orders of live oaks very cheaply. You know, just the little 2-inch diameter live oaks. And that's the minimum that they can plant. So they put them everywhere. But you'll see over on the right-hand side, this is a picture I took down in South Central Texas. I was going to visit friends at their family farm, and there was a dead end, and I had to turn right, but right across from me when I came to that new road was this perfectly natural grown live oak tree. You need to know this, how trees grow in their natural setting. Okay? And this is how they grow. So can you see this tree right here? No. Not only do we have the street, we have the driveway. These are like not garden homes, but very small yards. And look at this one right here. And look at the side of the house. How long is that going to last? They're going to have to brutally prune these trees. And that will shorten the life of the tree and cause structural problems also, because this tree grows naturally like this. Live oaks, I have been preaching this since I got here. What is it, almost 15 years? Live oaks are horrible street trees. I mean, this is way wider than a 60-foot crown. Remember I said minimum. So you've got to know these things about the tree you're choosing. So just a few of our common, I mean, very few of our common trees that we have in this area. We have cedar elm and American elm. The American elm up until the last couple of years was not replanted, and we lost a lot of them. I consider the cedar elm, although it's listed on a lot of sites as a median tree, or a large shade tree, in our area, it's more of a median tree. The easiest way to tell the difference between the two is that a cedar elm will not have a straight branch on it. So this time of year is perfect to go out and look at the trees, because you can see all the limbs. There's no leaves blocking your vision. And look at a cedar elm, and it will have small crooked limbs all over it. Okay, versus the American elm that almost grows like a fountain. They're very long, very graceful limbs. When I'm teaching the citizen foresters, I try to get them from the very beginning not to depend on leaves. I mean, there is a leaf difference between a cedar elm and an American elm, but our trees don't have leaves on them, and leaves can be mutated and change in size, maybe genetics and maybe disease. So don't be dependent. And on large shade trees, can you even see them? You have to use binoculars to see the leaves on them. Pecans. The reason I have pecans on here is another cautionary tale, because pecans are very much native to our areas, and we have a lot of folks that have them in their yard, and they're great trees. I hear guys complain because they have to pick up the pecans before they mow, because the mower will send them flying. But also, pecans have this natural defense to drought or stress. You know how most trees and your shrubs and flowers, when they don't get enough water or there's a disease or something, you'll start to see the leaves brown and the leaves will drop. Well, pecans just say poo-poo to that and said, I'm going to conserve water, or I'm going to cut something off by dropping an entire limb. So do you want a pecan tree hanging over your power lines that go to your house or your roof or your driveway where you park your car? I would say no. You need to be very cautious, and they need room to grow, right? I mean, to grow well. The thornless honeysuckle has become very popular in the last few years. But again, caution, if you see them in nature when they're smaller, they're kind of scraggly. It takes a lot of years to get to develop what you would consider a full crown. They're still very light and airy. Now, I would tell you also that honey locust is one of my favorite trees, not thornless, because one of the coolest things about it in nature is the giant maroon colored thorns, and easiest way to identify it too. So some differences may be subtle between the red oak and the Shumard oak, but the biggest glaring difference between these two is form. The red oak is a slightly smaller tree. The Texas red oak is a slightly smaller tree. It also doesn't have as good a form as the Shumard oak does, which is one of the reasons that the Shumard oak has become so popular. The Shumard oak, or the red oaks, are both of them, and all of them, are also very, very, very susceptible to oak wilt. So these are things that you need to know. The other kicker about these two is they can cross-pollinate. So I've been called the site, and you stand in front of it going, is it a Texas? Is it a Shumard? Is it a Texas? Is it a Shumard? Because they've crossed. So looking at the form can be your key to identifying them. These are my two favorites, Burr Oaks, and this got his Mexican oak. You've heard it as Monterey oak, Mexican white oak. But you have to be cautious again with the Burr Oak. You know, we do not plant Burr Oaks at schools. Why? Because there's nothing more delightful for the students and kids than throwing the acorns, which can get as big as a small baseball. And you don't want them throwing it through a window. Also, this is another one that I hear complaints from all the guys that they have to pick up the acorns before they mow, and which is logical, right? Now, the Mexican white oak or Monterey oak, one of the reasons it's become one of my favorites, it is our only other option for evergreen. The only time, I have one in my front yard that I planted as an experiment, very drought tolerant. In fact, it doesn't like too much water, but can take any one of our soils. You just have to watch out for drainage. It needs drainage, dry soils. But the only time that mine has ever lost leaves was last February in Snowmageddon. But it took it only 6 weeks for the leaves to come back, and it's been fine ever since. So definitely one of my favorites. This is the only slide that you'll see on proper planting. So when you get the PDF, grab that. The number one rule is the fastest way to kill a tree is to plant it too deep. So the best thing about this picture is that or the worst thing, it shows it planted, but we actually plant about an inch above grade, because think about the soil that's in a container that the roots are growing in. Most of the time it's very lightweight, and it's also in a hard-sided container. It will settle. So we plant about an inch above ground because the goal is that the tree will be exactly level with the surrounding area as it grows and after it settles. Proper pruning. Well, there's one that's never been pruned. So pruning is art and science. Science is what are we pruning and how are we pruning? Art, again, is how you prune. But before I go any farther, I will tell you, a wound is a wound is a wound on a tree. That's why I said earlier, pruning is stress. You've added stress onto the tree. They do not heal. You can think of it kind of like a permanent scab, but it is a scab that can get knocked off. And what I mean by that is the tree compartmentalizes the wound. And if you've pruned properly, the wound wood that's right at that cut will start to grow and cover up the wound. The dead wood is still there underneath, and dead wood decays. It slows that by putting that wound wood there, which provides protection from outside environment. So wind, rain, insects, disease. Okay? So we're back to questions. Why are you pruning? There's a lot of reasons. You notice that there's not a magic gnome that goes around in nature and prunes. The tree takes care of itself. We prune for us. All these reasons are for us. Low hanging branches, I need to mow underneath it, and I keep bopping my head on the branches, or I can't get the lawnmower underneath there. All of these, most of the time, what they're calling water sprouts or epicormic branching, this is a reaction to stress. So what is the stress that we keep having to prune? Because what this also does, remember what I said about the tree knows what it needs. It decreases the leaf surface area that the tree needs to survive. So caution, but you need to understand that answer. Why are you pruning? So keep this picture, it's a pretty picture in mind. This is creating a strong permanent scaffold. Timing is everything. If you prune the tree, not the first year, because it's all about the root after you plant it, for the first 5 years slowly to reach this, you should not have to prune after that, right? Unless there's a broken branch or one that's died. Timing is everything. Although we can't do this all the time, especially with the city, we have to prune year round. But for us, normally, gosh, our weather the last couple of years have been weird. December, January, and February are the coldest months of the year. That's when we always recommend pruning. Why? Because what you've taken out of the picture is the elements that we have no control over, which is temperature, insect, and disease movement. Okay? The cold decreases the amount of transpiration or loss or evaporation or loss of water out of the tree and out of the ground. So cooler temperatures keep our ground moist longer. Water is something that we can control by watering. And for those of you that don't know, I have been watering my trees. I haven't been watering all the grass and everything, but I have been watering because we have gone without water, especially deep water. You don't have to water as often, but you do. So that winter time is the best time to prune. I never tell anybody not to take a dead limb off of a tree in the heat of July or August. That's a safety issue, right? That is for us. So, but try to do structural during the winter. If you have fruit trees, you want to prune again for fruit, just like you would on a blueberry bush or anything after flowering. So you can see where you need to lighten the load on a limb on a plum tree, that kind of thing. Okay. This is another thing to remember. So what happened, how this was created, was because it was hard to talk to engineers about this. So Dr. Coder created this to put in their head architecture, right? We're talking about a tree. So a tree actually at its best has 75% live crown. That's the green arrow right here, right? But how you come up with the ratio is the total tree height, the clear stem, so to the lowest stem, that height, which gives you the live crown, okay? And gives you the ratio. Does that make sense? I hope. We can't always do that, unfortunately, especially again with our codes and everything. But a happy, healthy tree would have 75% live crown and only 25% stem. So where do I prune? See this little bulge right here? And most of the time there's a bulge at the bottom. There's also the ridge up here on top. This is the branch collar. This is the area that contains that magic, the wound wood that will cover up. So making that pruning cut outside See, that's the boundary, that's the area. You can see here what happens if you don't make a cut and the wood is dead. This also happens if the wound doesn't cover up. So what this is telling you, just like your arm, we have muscles. This is where it's really hard to do this online instead of in person. Your muscles from your shoulder to your arm allow you to raise your arm and keep it up, right? So this is the pith that's in the center of the neck, the trunk, stem, or the next larger branch. And this branch is connected to that. That's the strength. But it also is dead wood, so it allows decay to travel inside. So that's why this magic area is so critical to preserve. So this shows 1 through 6 where we're talking about. See how the connection of the pith comes right down here. So think of that as the muscle, the strength. And then you have the ridge right there. And this was done with X-ray. It's really cool. And the branch collar showing you that from here to here. And then so you would make your cut on the outside. So think of it as a protection zone. This is where we need to, not just the pith protection zone, we need to protect this area right here, which was on the previous slide. All right, this is a no-no, right? This shows where it will just travel inside. That's what's happening here. See how the branch collar was cut too far in, and the wound wood, because they cut most of the wound wood off. It did not allow the wound wood to grow over, which allows decay to increase in speed because, again, it's the impact of the environment. Wind, rain, all of that makes the wood decays, and dead wood decays even faster and allows it to go down inside. So how do I make a good cut? We see this all the time. And this limb, a lot of times you see this method only used on large limbs. Well, unless you can use a pair of loppers on it, I think you need to use this method. It's called the 3-cut method because this can always happen, this ripping, which again, makes the wound larger and you've lost this wound wood at the base, okay? They won't allow it to grow over. That means if you make a proper cut, then you only have wound wood on 3 sides. So it will always have an open wound, which will thereby start to decay. So you make the first cut underneath. Let's say you go out 6 inches, make the cut underneath, but you don't make it all the way through. See, what it does is it creates a void. And then you go out another 6 inches and make the full cut so that if it starts to strip like this one did, the strip hits the void and stops. Then you come back and make the proper cut. Outside, see, there's your ridge, there's your bulge, that's your branch collar. This is our area, our zone of protection, and you make it right outside. This shows it even better because then you can see the void, right? And you can see how it starts to strip after you make your cut and the void stops it. Then you make your proper. So caring for your tree. Water, just like us, humans, is the most limiting factor. This is a lot of words, but basically what this means is that newly planted trees need more water. They also need water closer to the trunk of the tree because it doesn't have an extensive root system. This is why earlier when we were talking about pruning, I said, no, stop. If you plant the tree, you don't do anything but water that first year. The first year is all about the root system. This is also why we, in our area, promote tree planting in November. Because think about it. When our temperatures are normal, the temperature starts to rise into the 90s and 100s at the end of May and June. That gives that tree over 6 months to put on the most extensive root system it can. but it's all about water the first year in the root system. So that's why we create that bowl. You know, when we plant, you saw in the picture earlier, it's actually to concentrate the water in here. Ignore the bowl after the first year, even after the first 6 months. Then you've got to start watering out. And just like y'all have learned with grasses, deep, slow watering is always the best. You got to get that water down there. If you have St. Augustine, you have to make even more of an effort because of St. Augustine will try and get all your water. So mature trees, under normal circumstances, most mature trees, and what I mean by most is besides those that are stressed and or fruiting trees, we shouldn't have to water. One big exception with that is, y'all all remember our, 3-4 years of drought? By the second year, people were calling me left and right. Something's wrong with my tree. The leaves are dying, it's dropping off, my tree's dying. I said, are you watering your yard? No. I said, why not? Well, because we know we can replace the grass and we're trying to conserve water. Well, yes, you can replace the grass, but you cannot replace that mature tree. And our soils got so dry that any water that was within the tree itself, the dry soils were actually, which is where the roots grow, right? We're actually pulling water out of the roots. So think of it almost like reversing the way the water goes from the roots up. It was actually pulling water out of the trees. So you can replace your grass. You can replace most anything in your yard, but you can't replace that tree and what the benefits that tree provides. We lost a lot of trees, and about half of them were because homeowners were not watering. So remember this. Remember what I said about watering? This is not a young tree. The tree roots can grow a distance, minimum distance of 1.5 times the height of the tree. So if it's 40-foot tree, minimum distance is 60 feet. That's unobstructed, right? They don't grow underneath your house unless you're peer and being like me, or you already have a crack in your foundation, because the two key factors for trees, especially roots, are a balance of water and oxygen, and can't have that. Not underneath your house and not underneath the streets, or they'll hit the side of a pool and go down the side, just like they do on a back of a curb or your side, your house foundation. They will come up into it. They are opportunistic. They don't break things, but they will turn to the side and start growing. Where you get into trouble with it too close to your house and roots is that the primary laterals, as they grow in length, they also grow in diameter, and that can push, especially on concrete, especially on old concrete. So these are watering needs. These are very general that we created with trying to think about which trees we have in our area and temperatures. Okay. Southern magnolia is a flowering, fruiting tree, even though we don't eat the seeds, but it is a flowering, fruiting tree. So it does need more water at lower temperatures, even, where we don't worry about these until we get up into the 90s. But remember what I said about I'm watering mine right now. These are low water requiring trees, but it is below 90. I don't actually water every 10 days because it is so cool. I check the soil to make sure it's moist. If the top 2 inches are going to be the first to dry out, but go down below that and see if the moisture level is decent below that, because the soil will retain moisture longer. So mulching, as master gardeners, y'all all know the benefits of mulching. It not just trees, it's everything. It keeps the temperature level. It helps to retain moisture. It can also be a breeding ground, though you have to watch it for fungus and insects, okay? So the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is good, this is bad. What did I just say about retaining moisture, keeping temperature down, insects and disease? They just love cool, moist locations. And that's what you're doing, and you put it right up next to the tree. And this is called a mulch volcano, like it's spitting the tree out of it. And what will happen, and not very long time either, you pull this back and the bark will start to rot. And remember, the bark is the layer of protection for the trunk. And so as it rots, then the wood starts to rot, and it's all downhill from there. So the previous picture, the one that showed the good, wide, shallow. You can go up to 4 inches of mulch, but always keep it at least 2 inches away from that base, that magic zone in between where the ground, it goes from trunk to roots. Keep it a minimum of 2 inches from there. So where to water? This isn't a new tree. The feeder roots are out here. This is where you need to water. That's why when I was telling people to water their yard, they didn't understand. If you only water up here and these are left without water, this becomes a structural liability. Because if these roots start to die back from either side, any side, these also help keep the tree up, balanced, right? And the converse, you don't see this very often because you don't understand what's going on. But I know y'all have all seen when our soils get super saturated, the same thing happens. There's no oxygen. Every pore space is full of water and the tree roots start to die. And then we have a big wind come through and boom, the whole thing falls over. And there's only like little roots sticking up from the root ball. Like, what happened? Well, that's what happened. The same thing can happen with drought if we don't keep these roots alive. So I was asked, that was very quick. I was asked very nicely to go over some invasives, so it kind of added on to our time. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the basic ones that we deal with day to day in here in the city of Dallas. And then I'm going to talk to you about one that we need to watch out for. Okay. Again, I'm not going to read every slide, but we'll go through them as quickly as we can. These are our biggest pains right now. Everybody knows about Chinese privet, Chinese tallow, giant reed, tree of heaven, Chinaberry. I will tell you, Chinaberry is the only one that won't completely take over an area and that we can control a little bit better, but it's still an invasive, undesirable vegetation. So the Chinaberry, the reason that you see babies popping up all the time is look how prolific it is in seeding. But there's a lot of people that just love this tree. So here's all the details of when it was introduced and the most effective way to get rid of it. I will tell you, for most invasives, as much as we hate it, the only way is through either basal bark applications or treating the stumps with herbicide. We just haven't, we're still doing research, but we just haven't found any natural way to get rid of this stuff. And even then, it's hard. So again, for the people that I train and teach, our rule is if the names Japanese, Chinese, or Asian is in front of it, don't plant it because it's very dangerous. So Chinese privet, y'all have all known. Some of y'all helped me way back in the day. It took us 1.5 years for a small area of White Rock Lake. And that was manually cutting with a pesticide applicator walking behind us and treating the stumps. And then it was 5 years of mowing and weed eating, keep the big one, those small ones from coming down because they're so, again, look at all these seeds, so prolific. They were buried in the seed bank for years. So another thing you can tell is that all of these have been here for a while. This isn't something new. and they were all brought over for a reason. And actually, we still sell Chinese privet along with tallow in nurseries. So it's always amazed me. But every time we've tried to change that, to put even some restrictions on selling it, I can tell you that the landscape companies, the growers in the state of Texas have a lot louder voice than we do when we try to introduce legislation just to get them to stop selling it. Tree of Heaven, wow. Tree of Heaven in the city of Dallas is getting worse and worse. We're finding it in places we hadn't found it before. Again, very prolific. It is our belief that the seeds are very small and actually are carried, because we're finding it places that aren't close to water is where it started out at first. You find it along the banks, moving the seeds very easily. But now we're finding it in areas like uphill by the hospital or River Shawn Park, where there is no water. So we're thinking animals, birds, and birds do move a lot of these around. So again, been here a long time. And brought for different reasons. Somebody brought one and everybody was like, ooh, pretty. And it became an industry. So Chinese tallow. Chinese tallow was actually brought in. The big push for it was after the Vietnam War, because the oils were used to, light lanterns and everything in Southeast Asia. And so it was a big push. But in places like South Texas, where I was for quite a while, it was actually color. Everybody was saying, well, we want fall color. You can't grow maples or any of that down here. So there was a big industry. There was actually an Arbor Day long before I got down there that they gave away some 20,000 seedlings that got planted. Now, the good thing is in South Texas, it's so hot and dry. It does somewhat keep them under control because that is not natural for them. But unfortunately, it did migrate into East Texas. And this is the biggest problem for the pine plantations where they're growing that southern yellow pine that y'all buy at Home Depot, Lowe's, or at any warehouse store, because it outgrows the pine seedlings so fast. You open up a pine field, after you've harvested, and this stuff starts to grow, and it's near impossible for them to keep control of. And again, it just takes over the environment, somewhat like, you can see right here, somewhat like privet does, and changes the environment. So there's, they say it was 1700s and it was first in South Carolina, but again, we have historical data that shows the big push of it was in the early 70s, at the end of the Vietnam War and immediately afterwards, when we had a lot of refugees come in and brought it with. This is our new big problem. And this is another one that everybody thinks they can kind of like, with some of my favorite bushes, grasses, that you can just go in and cut it down, and that's the end of it. No. You have to, again, take off the top 6 inches of the soil and try to get all the roots out. I guess unless you napalm the entire area, which we can't do. So you can even burn, but you have to combine with herbicides to be the most effective. All right, so here's our new one. Just first and foremost, EAB, emerald ash borer, has not been found in Dallas County. There is one site in Denton. It's about 44 miles away. And there's another site, it was the first site, in far northwest Fort Worth, which is about 48 miles away. And that's just on the roads. That's not even by the way the crow flies. So we actually saw a decrease in populations last year at the Camp Broadway site, which is the northwest Fort Worth area. We don't know why, if it was the temperatures, just populations decreasing. But again, we have not found this in the city of Dallas. We have not found this in Dallas County. Our website will show you most of this. If you didn't know, the city of Dallas actually has a forestry website now. Has lots of information. We're always putting new. The forestry team, which is citywide, is always adding things. There's videos on how to identify an ash tree. Yeah, there's lots of information. There's lots of EAB. We're actually working on an EAB action plan now. A lot of this you may already know, but go ahead and go in and look just so you know. And back to, it hasn't been found in this county. We are working and have been working for the last 2 years with the Texas Forest Service, who of course works with feds. We have, during active season, they take them down there in winter time because there's no activity, but they watch for activity. We have 10 traps that surround the city of Dallas. I mean, inside city of Dallas limits. There's a higher concentration in the area, 35 that leads to Denton. And then of course, on the west side, 30, 20, the Great Trinity Forest, because of being found in Fort Worth and Denton. And so far, those traps have not shown any EAB. The minute they do, we'd go under quarantine. So there's a map showing our 2. The others are far, far. I mean, this is right on the edge of Texas and Louisiana. But there is some thought. All of the research at this time is from the north, okay? Their seasons, their temperatures normally are different than ours. And this also has an effect on the parasitoids that they are working on, the wasps that kill the larvae. They have not found that effective down here because our heat actually kills them. So that's it. Here's everything. Our website, if you pull down the menu on the front page of the City of Dallas website for departments, they view all departments, and there is actually a listing under departments for forestry, and it'll take you there. That also gives you links to the landscape and tree manual that's in development services. It has links to Branch Out Dallas, where our big tree giveaway. It has listings for all our volunteer opportunities. It's got lots of stuff on it. Our community fire protection plan is on there. Okay. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Karen, I got one question in the chat. One of our viewers wants to know if you recommend cherry laurel.
Yes, but again, where do you want to plant it? With size. Most people use cherry laurels as screens versus red tip photinias. Is that what you want? If you have the space, remember fence, you don't want it, they can get pretty wide. Do you have the space to let them grow how they need to grow? But yes, we've done individual cherry laurels on public property.
Okay, so depending on the size, they're okay. Got another question here. What about desert willow and vitex? Did you hear me?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay.
For the most part, we don't use vitex as much anymore because it can, in some situations, break out. I'm not calling it an invasive, but it can break out. But both of them are multi-stemmed. So again, you have to think space. They are great for flowering and pollination.
Okay. And we got comments, great presentation. We got people loving your presentation. I personally loved it. Appreciate you being here.
Anytime.
And you can stop sharing your screen.
I did.
And Abby will take over.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, Karen, that was amazing and such good information. And hopefully the website information will be on your PowerPoint that you share.
It is.
Super. Thank you so very much. I'd like to introduce our Master Gardener Coordinator, Mr. Jeff Raska, and he is going to be speaking to us. And so, Jeff, if you're there.
I'm here. Good morning, group. Or good afternoon now. That was a great presentation. Thank you, Karen, for doing that. That was fantastic. So thanks for being a part of our Master Gardener program. We appreciate it. I'm going to go over a few, just basically hit some things real quick and get on to the program. From extension standpoint for AgriLife, the Dallas County office, there's been some movement on employment. Some of you have known we've been no staffed almost whatsoever. There's been one agent and me, and that's been it as far as AgriLife. But now we've hired a BLT agent, which is Better Living for Texas. She's local, coming from TWU. She will do programming. She'll do the Learn, Grow, Eat, Go programming with kids, and she'll do nutrition programs for seniors, citizens. So she's got multiple tasks, but I think she's going to be really good. They also are transferring in an FCS agent, which is our family consumer health agent. She is, I've done one program with her, and she is really, really good. I think she's going to be a dynamo here in the county, and she'll be calling on us. Paula Butler, the regional program director, has tasked the new people coming in to work with me on mentoring, or work with me on mentoring them, but also on program crossover, since we've got so much new programming going on that will bring them into us. So we'll be looking to help them and help our nutrition program, our programs with consumer health, and we'll be doing some multiple programmings coming up. That, as far as right now, that occurring. What's exciting news maybe is the fact that we might have found a horde agent. They've done interviews, multiple interviews. They've got one candidate. I talked to her last week. Seems really, really good. She's got a lot of experience in community gardening and working with volunteers and working with city parks and different type applications, but in the garden, from vegetable gardening to some landscapes and things like that. So she's got some pretty good experience, really good experience. Good education. She doesn't live here in Dallas. She's going to move to Dallas, and she's excited over the job. I talked to her for about an hour, laid out programming that's in place and some things that are going on in the county, and she seems very excited to be there. So we might have her new agent, maybe, fingers crossed, if everything works out and if she accepts it. If they offer it, she accepts it. But I'm excited about that, to get somebody on board. She will be, or he will, well, this is a she, but whomever they hire would be the program coordinator, would be the new, of course, Master Gardener program coordinator would take over here, but I'm going to stay and mentor them for 2 years and help them transition into the job. So I promised A&M I would do that, and that way they're going to transition into it. So I'm looking for easy transitions. So, but exciting to get agents and people in the office so we can get program working there. From our standpoint, from AgriLife, from the horticulture standpoint, Master Gardeners, we haven't slowed down one tick. We have gotten, I've set some program series coming up, and we will put that on the calendar. I got to get that to Joellen, and we'll put that on the calendar. But right now, it is on the website. So North Haven, I'm excited to get back at North Haven. Extremely excited to help them out. They've been a wonderful partner for us for many years. I know a lot of you shop there. A lot of you love the group there. And I did a presentation week before last. The second presentation, they just restarted again. So that was a number 2 presentation in a new facility. It's a really nice classroom. It's going to be really nice. It's going to be limited with numbers still. We're still under some COVID restrictions, but they want to get rolling again, and we want to help them get rolling again. So Saturday I'm doing a pruning workshop, one-on-one pruning workshop, and every third Saturday will be at AgriLife Saturday. So it will be some specific programming, like fruit trees will be coming up, things like that, but it'll also be some of our speakers bureaus. Some of our speaker bureau talks for specifics like perennials, different things like that. So we're setting the series up. I'm working with Rusty over there, and every third Saturday will be an AgriLife Saturday. So I want the Master Gardeners to be heavily involved in helping them to get the education program back up and running, and also keep supporting them. They're just now getting back on their feet again after 2 tornadoes and all the things they've had. They're a beautiful location and up and running. That's one series. Starting another series. I already started another series last month with North Texas Food Bank. I'll be doing a series of talks and lectures on vegetable gardening, fruit trees, backyard chickens, things like that with the North Texas Food Bank at their main branch. And they will be doing some presentations at Road and Bridge 1. We're going to cross over and we're going to team together. They've got gardens. They've got a main garden at the main branch in North Dallas, but they've also got sub stations or sub distributions, and they got little gardens. Are going to start programs, so we can be involved in that. Now, when I meet with these people, and I meet with all these new entities that we're going to work with, I'll work with them, and we'll bring our Master Gardener team in there too. But we're not going to force the issue with some of the things. I'm not going to ever make any of you do whatever you want to do, but this is a good opportunity to do some programming in places that need us the most. Because we're going to be working with people that are taking part in using the shelter or using the food banks and stuff like that. We're really making some inroads into insecurity and food insecurity by doing garden programs, and I'm looking forward to that. North Texas Food Bank is going to be a fun series. Also, I'm going to start a series with Shades of Green, another nursery. It's an organic nursery that actually has a learning center. I've done one video for them, and we're going to start doing that too. So I want to bring the Master Gardeners into that and our speaker bureau into that too as we get going and we get that started. So there's some new opportunities that I want to open up. So when the new agent comes in, they're going to have a pretty nice stream of educational opportunities in place. We can have some educational series in place. It'll be a regular series. Another one is actually the city, the county, Dallas County Health and Human Services. They have been helping them, working with them on a grant. They've got a grant from the nutrition department, USDA, that's going to start supporting local community gardens. So we gave out the first set of grants, which are 5 grants to existing gardens. I've done a training. We're going to start doing more trainings. There's some opportunities to help work in those gardens and help get those gardens rolling, but basically the county is going to be supporting them with some money and keep them rolling. So there's there's 5 locations right now. Also looking at the county has 10 senior citizen facilities that they run, and that will be phase 2. We'll be putting some gardens in the senior citizen facilities. We're not going to be the caretakers. We're not going to drive this ship. We're going to be the educators. We're going to be the helpers when they need us. We'll be the advisors, but we're not going to be the maintenance people. And they know that. I've told them that about 1,000 times, and they get it. So our place will be exactly what we want to be doing there. But it's a great opportunity to help our senior citizens that are within the community center. So that's exciting too. That's a nice new. That'll be a nice opportunity. Working with the city. Another one is the city of Garland. I'm setting a talk series with the city of Garland. They're specific to presentations at R&B 1, and they're going to be advertising. They're going to be doing all that through the water department. We're going to start doing water department presentations. So there's lots of new things coming up. That's 5 talk series that we'll be putting. That will be direct contact with the outreach programs. So those are new ones. When the new agent comes in, we'll go over that, and they'll transition and they'll start. I want to give them a starting point, whomever it is they hire, to jump into this programming right away, but also to make their mark, because they're going to be making their mark. I'm stepping out, they're stepping in, they'll make their mark, and I want them to have some things in place and some working programs in place. So exciting things coming up in programming for us, for AgriLife, and for you guys, for our Master Gardeners. So the teams will be ready to start getting into that. But school starts 2022 Master Gardener School will start February 7th. Will be our first class. It'll run through April 18th. We're going to start it virtually for the first month, more than likely. If things get better, we will meet in person, hopefully in March. We'll just have to play it by ear. Our COVID policy right now is still facility specific. If you're at the temple, if you're at the church, if you're in a county building, you do what they say in and outside the property. So it's whatever the county, whatever the facility says, we will abide by. A&M does not put restrictions on it, will not put restrictions on it again. The county goes up and down every day. I was with the commissioner yesterday talking about it. From day to day, it changes. So we're just going to have to play it by ear and be safe. Be smart again, guys. You're not going to, again, just as long as I'm here, you're still not going to be forced into getting, your hours will be adjusted if they need to be. I don't think they will, but I'll take care of you on that. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about staying a master gardener. Just do what we ask you to do by getting it into TIG. If you want to go to LA and the reasons like that, get it to TIG and let me know, and we'll help you. But we need to get our hours in, and we've had another, we've lost master gardeners this year, which is we would do every year, but we dropped quite a bit more this year than usually. So get your hours in and help us out, because I will bend over backwards to help you through here. If you never step on a property this year, and you can't step on a property this year, I understand that, and we will get you through the program again. So just let me know. Let us know what's going on, or let Abby know. Let somebody know what's going on, because we will take care of you, I promise. But what's tough at the end of it, everybody scrambles at the end when we're trying to get these new rosters made and stuff, and it makes it tougher on us. So help us out, and I promise you I'll take care of all of you and make sure, as long as I'm here, I'll make sure y'all get through the program. But school's starting, excited about it. Hopefully we've got 50, or what do we got, 40, I can't remember, almost 50. We've got a new division of this where we're going to be doing education virtually for educators. We're going to have we've got 14 teachers that are going to go through the program in virtual education, that they'll be working at their schools and be able to use these once they get certified to use the hours at their schools, which is new. And the team came up, Cynthia and the team, and Zandra and Denise, got an amazing team. And this is something that they came up with. We talked about, this is going to be a way to go in the future, so we can get our educators involved and help teachers be a part of our program. So I'm excited about that. Excited to get the school started again. Everything's going as planned, but please let me know if y'all need anything. Thank you for getting through this, another 2021. I know 2022 is already better. I just am tired of the cold weather. I see sun, I want to go out and play in the gardens and stuff. I'm ready to get past this stupid cold weather and these 30-degree days. Let's get back out in the gardens, be safe. But let me know what I can do for y'all. Let me know what I can do to help you all, because I want us to get through 2022. We will one day get back to some normalcy, but it's we'll just have to play it by ear. But it's so good to see people again. I know we're all excited to see people again face to face, and we will get to do this meeting one day face to face. It's been talked about in our monthly meetings. We'll go face to face again one day when we can. But hang in there with us and let me know what you need. Thanks, guys, for hanging in there, and thanks for all you've done. So, Miss Abby.
Hey, Jeff, it's Joelle. I got one question in the chat. I think I know the answer, but to verify, is the class full, the Master Gardener School class?
Oh, yeah.
It's all done, right?
Class is done. Yeah, we're already ready to set class. The last day of application is always going to be December. We want everything in by December 31st on applications, and then we choose and stuff. So class is full. And we've got a smaller number, but we're going to handle a smaller number this year. So it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Bobby Babcock, and I'd like to know what the future of Rowlett's facility is going to be.
It's going to be, the future of that facility is going to be amazing. It's about to double the farm this year. I just had an interview with Subaru Magazine, which is a huge publication about the farm and about the model. AgriLife did an expose on it and did a feature on it for all that team out there. That team is amazing. It will go forward, and it will expand and be a bigger farm. It's going to, as far as AgriLife is concerned, it is the farm model, the small urban farm model for us right now. So we're excited about that. I'm so proud of that team out there and the hard work that all of us have done. All of us have done great work, and I'm happy, because when I talk about us as a county food producing and feeding homeless and feeding there, I always include Temple, Emmanuel, I always include Moss Haven, I always include rain catchers, the ones that do grow food, and all of us that do grow food, more than just there. But it is we're about to put 30 new beds in there now from a grant. We got a grant for 12 beds, but as wood went down to nothing, we're going to build 30 new beds. So it's just going to get bigger and better. The grape production has been fantastic. We've got some really good quality grapes, and we've just set our wine. We made some wine. Our first wine from the vineyard went to A&M. Michael just picked it up from A&M, and they're taking it down there to test it and look at the quality of it for them. It's all for industry, so they're looking at it to the quality of what we're doing there. So.
Okay, so we're going to grow it and still donate it for someone to distribute it for us.
Absolutely, always, Bobby. It's always going to be distributed through with Big Tex Urban Farm and with Restorative Farm, and we're actually looking at Paul Quinn College to get that farm up and going. They've had for the last 20 years, they've had up and down issues, but if that gets rolling, that'll be another growing facility to go into the coalition to be distributed to the homeless shelters. Community distribution. So that will not stop while I'm here. That will keep going forward.
Okay. The last question I have, is there any way anyone can pull the rug out from under us at that facility specifically because it really belongs to someone else?
Not at that facility, not now. It would be absolute political suicide, because I just did a 4-star telegram, Dallas Morning News. I've done articles. I've done not articles, but interviews with county people. We've had legislators out there. We've had lots and lots of visitors out there. It's a commissioner's decision. And as far as Dr. Daniel goes, she's there for 4 more years. After that, there's no way they could. I mean, they could, I guess, do that, but it'd be suicide. We're way too entrenched in the food situation, the food insecurity situation now. Way too well known with the city of Dallas, with the county, with the state now. We're going to A&M, so it would be extremely hard to do that with. The one thing about it, though, Bobby, if a plug was pulled, those are all raised beds. Everything out there can be moved. Would be moved on a truck. Abby has brought big trucks out before. Her company has. We could take 4 or 5 of Abby's trucks and move that whole facility to another location if we had to. So it's all built for that. It's all built. When I put that together and started designing that one, I thought this could happen to us. It happened over there. Very unlikely. They're not going to sell the property because of the tower. That large, there's no way they can get rid of that property because it's got to stay there. So it's got to be a county facility, but it would be tough for somebody to talk to us. And the first time we sent food to a shelter, to that kitchen, we started putting cookies in our jar, and we got a big cookie jar filled up right now with credibility. So.
Okay. So a new county agent couldn't come in and downplay that.
No.
Okay.
It's mine. I'm over that. That was my job description when they created this job for me, was to design and build and run that center. So that is my responsibility. And they would hire somebody new from the county, working with county health and human services, all these departments in the county and the city and working with, it would be extremely hard. And an agent would come in and like Stephen did, our distribution, our work distribution is basically the agent would take care of you guys and master gardener programs and all that and do some programming. I do all the coalition work and all the food work and all the things like that and all the farm stuff or the small urban farm stuff and run this center. So this is my job to run the center. They would hire, I talked to the commissioner before, when I go and retire, they're certainly going to put somebody else in the spot to run that center. So they've got plans in the future to absolutely keep the center running.
Great. Well, I'm going to get back to work over there. So thanks for everything that you do. I really appreciate that. And it's good to hear that we're sort of locked in to keeping that going.
Yeah, we are. Thanks we'll miss you out there, Bobby. Come on back out. We got a
I
lot
will.
of exciting stuff.
Okay. We got a lot yet on the agenda, so let's move on. Abby. Thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff, very much. Really appreciate it. Next, I would like to I have a shout out. Beverly Allen and Jan Beverly Berry and Jan Larson are doing their annual seed collection to be given away to the new students in the Master Gardener School. So keep that in mind, and go ahead and start saving those, and they will put out a call when they're ready for distributing those. So that's my shout out. And now I'd like to turn it over to Zandra and Cynthia and Margaret for the presentation on the new exciting website.
Thank you, Abby. Good afternoon, everyone. We are delighted to introduce you to the newly revamped DCMGA website, which is a tribute to the vision and endless hours of hard work of Sandy Means, Bannon, her team, the DCMGA board for their financial support, and the Liquid Fly website developers. Everyone collaborated to create a site that, as you can see, is beautiful, secure, highly functional, and full of invaluable resources for our members and for the public. Of course, the new site is organized differently from the old one, so we'd like to take this opportunity to give you a brief overview. You will find the following features here on the home page. There will be a feature article. Today, it's how to select the right Japanese maple for your garden. Question of the month, garden tips, speaker spotlight, project spotlight, and calendar events. As you review the new homepage, you will see tabs along the top labeled Home, About Us, Event Calendar, Get Help, and Members Only. Clicking on the About Us tab will take you to the About Us menu page that you see here, where you may access pages that contain important facts about the Master Gardener Association, the Master Gardener Program, Texas A&M AgriLife, and our projects. Please take the time to look at each of these pages. But for now, I'd like to focus on our projects, which categorizes all DCMG projects into 3 groups: the Research, Education, and Demonstration, or RED gardens, Community Service gardens, and School gardens. And as we scroll through all of those gardens, you will see a description of every garden with accompanying pictures. But since this is open to the public, we do not include contact information for the project leaders here. Instead, it is available in the members only section. Zandra is now going to review the Get Help section for us.
Hello, dear friends. Good to see you or be on and on the meeting today. The Get Help is divided into these items: Help Desk, Speakers Bureau, Earth Kind Gardening, and Gardening Resources. On the Help Desk, I want to thank the leaders of the Help Desk, Maureen O'Hanahan and Rick Koch, and the entire Help Desk team that worked diligently to answer the questions. The public receives free research-based information by sending in an email or using a request form, as you see on the screen. The next section is the Speakers Bureau. Thank you to Cookie Peden, the Speakers Bureau leader, and her team for updating the list of speaker presentations. The Speakers Bureau has approximately 150 programs to choose from, and you see them in these lists categories below. Last year, the speakers provided 88 presentations to area organizations and approximately had 2,200 contacts with the public. Currently, all presentations are virtual. I want to show you some of the categories. When you click on them, You need to remember, as this statement says, scroll down to see all the programming. So I'm going to click on butterflies and pollinators. And what you see is this very popular, the very popular presentations of butterfly and pollinator gardening. Okay. The next one I just want to show you is specialty gardens and plants. So you'll see gardening around the world and tropicals, succulents, and cactus. The next section is going to be earth-kind gardening. The public can learn more about using earth-kind practices to create beautiful gardens while conserving and protecting our natural resources and the environment. When you see a bolded phrase, that means that this is a link. If you click on it, you take you to the area in which on the Aggie Hort section talks about all of the principles. Okay. List out things that you can, like I said, click on. You can go to vegetable, herbs, and raised gardens and see other, information. Click on those and you either get a PDF or information from, AgriLife or Master Gardeners. So this is been a wonderful honor for me to be part of this revamp process. Now, Margaret will review the MG only section.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you guys today. Before Zandra shows us how to log in on the members only login page, she'll scroll over to the left side on the home page, and we want you to notice that all the icons in blue indicate public events that you are all welcome to attend. Now, if we go to members only and click on that, you'll be able to log into the members only section. If it's been a while since you've logged into members only and you have forgotten your password, no need to worry, we have you covered. Just enter your email address that you used on VMS and click Forgot Password, and an email will be sent to you where you can reset your password again. Once you're logged in on the members page, you will see that the calendar now has additional opportunities for you. The green icons list volunteer opportunities for Dallas County Master Gardeners, and the brown icons list Speakers Bureau events that allow Master Gardeners to attend as space allows. One of the great features of our upgraded site is that you can toggle between the members only section and the public area, and you will remain logged onto the members only. In the members only section, you will see that there's an article written under member news just for you, our Dallas County Master Gardeners. The next section that you'll see is association documents. Here you will have access to the latest COVID protocol updates and all of the forms that you may need to complete. And finally, you'll see the Master Gardener resources. In this section, you'll find information on our help desk, VMS, and you will see there's a bolded link right there where Zandra is pointing that you can click right over to VMS to log your volunteer site. Also, if you want easy access to the volunteer management system webpage, you can add it onto the bookmarks on your computer's web browser, or add it onto the homepage of your cell phone. The next section is the at-home botanist. This provides information for you to be able to work from home. Next, our contact list. Under this section, we have provided you with the phone numbers and email addresses for all the persons in leadership roles in our organization, and we include contact information for our project leaders, including their personal information in case you want to know more about volunteering. And the final section is publications, and you can go here to see our previous issues of the Grow, Know, and Go newsletter. Thanks a lot, and now it's back to Cynthia.
Thank you, Margaret. In summary, we encourage you to explore our new website often. New content is added frequently, so there will always be something new to explore. Please keep going back and encourage your friends and family to visit our website at dallascountymastergardeners.org. Also, if you want to post events on the calendar, fill out the event announcement form, which is listed on the association's document section in the members only area. Our goal is to make the DCMGA website our go-to resource for the public and for our master gardeners. To keep the information fresh, we look to all volunteers to contribute timely information that can be featured either on our home pages or on our members only page. Something important is always going on in our projects. There is no need to fear if you are not a polished writer. We have wonderful editors that can help us all sound great. You may still have some questions, and if you do, please feel free to contact any of us. We will put our contact information in the chat, and we thank you so much for your support in this wonderful new website. Now, back to Abby.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. I can't wait to get in there and play around with that wonderful new website. That's going to be really amazing. Now I would like to introduce Nancy Black, the event coordinator for our wonderful 2022 garden tour. Nancy, if you're available.
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. The Spring Garden Tour will take place on Saturday, April 30th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and on Sunday, May 1st from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. All 7 gardens are north of LBJ. 3 are in Carrollton, 1 in Farmers Branch, 1 is in Addison, 1 in Richardson, and the school garden, Anne Frank Elementary, is in far North Dallas. We hope to have the link for ticket sales on the Master Gardener website up and running by mid-February. Tickets are $15 in advance, $20 at the door, and your ticket is good for one or both days. Now I'd like to play a little bit of garden tour trivia. I will ask one question, and the first 3 responders who have the correct answer will each receive 2 Narcissus Ice Follies bulbs. First, everyone who would like to participate, please open the Zoom chat feature and select everyone to receive their response. Then have your cursor ready to start typing your answer. The garden tour trivia question is, what is the name of the school garden on the spring garden tour. Oh my goodness. Wow. We have, so far, everyone has a correct answer, and I'm going to have to rely, I believe, on Dorothy. I was looking down at my notes. Dorothy, do you have a transcript, and can you, everyone's correct so far. Give me the names of the first 3 responders.
Yes, I can. Hang on just a second.
All righty, that would be great.
Okay. Sorry, I went too far. I apologize for the delay.
No problem. I'm sorry, I was looking down. I had no idea the participation would be so great.
They've all gotten very good at this. Sandy Means is number 1. Sandy Means is number 1.
All right.
Ann O'Hara is number 2. And Joyce Bradley is number 3.
And is Joyce's last name Bradley?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have Sandy Means Bannon, Ann O'Hara, and Joyce Bradley.
Correct. That's correct.
All right. These 3 participants, Sandy, Ann, and Joyce, what I will do is I will hand deliver the bulbs to your front door, and I will be getting your address from the VMS. If that does not work for you, or if you have changed your address, please text me at 214-535-4054. And I plan on delivering those this weekend, probably Saturday, or if not Saturday, Sunday afternoon. And thank you so very much for participating. And with that, I'd like to turn the meeting back over to Abby.
Thank you very much, Nancy. This is going to be a fun garden tour, and congratulations to the winners, most definitely. At this time, I'd like to introduce Wendy Leance from Temple Emmanuel, our project spotlight. Wendy, if you're there, please go ahead and sign in.
I'm here, so let me try to share my screen. Can y'all see that?
It's good, Wendy.
Okay, let me just try to stop the video so I can move it one at a time. Let's go back. I wasn't quite ready to. Okay. So hi, everybody. I just want to give a shout out at first to Jeff for mentioning our connection with North Texas Food Bank. And because we are a project that is associated with the food bank, and that is pretty awesome. And we're going to talk about the Jill Stone Community Garden at Temple Emmanuel. So the Jill Stone Community Garden was founded in 2012 with the mission of providing fresh organic vegetables to the Victory Meadow Food Pantry. Even though 3 of the original members were Dallas County Master Gardeners, the garden was not a Master Garden project until 2014. The garden began, let me stop this. Okay. The garden began as a way for Temple Emmanuel members to become involved with growing food for donation to our less fortunate neighbors. As the size and production of the garden has grown over the years, so is the support from the Temple Emmanuel community. I'm sorry it's going so fast. I didn't mean for that to happen. And each year the congregation cheers as the pounds of vegetables are added up and published in the newsletter. In 2020, the garden contributed just over 2.5 tons of produce. And in 2021, we donated over 7,000 pounds of fresh organic produce. You heard me right, 7,000 pounds. We're pretty proud of that number, as you can imagine. That's a picture of me and one of the gals in the food pantry. The garden is in the northernmost stretch of land on the Temple Emmanuel campus at 8500 Hillcrest Road in Dallas. The garden space currently encompasses 13,500 square feet. The old garden site still in use is about 4,500 square feet. We added over 9,000 square feet in 2019, along with a greenhouse and 2 storage sheds. We currently manage 41 raised beds, many with trellises attached, and have 5 farmers' rows. In addition to vegetables, we grow many plants to attract pollinators. I personally am fortunate enough to have been recruited by the preschool at Temple Emmanuel in 2016 to create and teach a farm-to-table program. There are school gardens that I tend and use for teaching, but I also use the community garden The educational opportunities this presents are endless. The children learn about all aspects of the garden, from propagation to planting and harvesting to pollinators and butterflies. What a rich environment this has created for our future gardeners. We are a certified Monarch Way Station and partner with the North Texas Food Bank. We are also a plant tag garden, and you are invited to use your phone to scan the QR code on any of the signs for information about the garden, its plants, and their care and requirements. We're really excited that we're part of that program. The garden partners with the International Rescue Committee, which is called the IRC, and we have set aside several of our raised beds for them to use for their families. The garden donates all supplies that they need, along with seeds. The garden started with volunteers from the Temple Emmanuel population. Since that time, more volunteers have offered their energy, many of them just neighbors of the temple who have seen us working or seen the garden and walk by and just show up and say, can I become a part of this? We have high school students from both private and public schools volunteering and learning as well. The garden is happy that for several years, garden members have made up part of each New Year's crop in the Dallas County Master Gardener Program. In addition to our regular volunteers, we boast the involvement of some 15 certified master gardeners, 3 with vegetable specialist and 5 with greenhouse specialist training. The Jillstone Community Garden at Temple Emmanuel is completely organic. We donate all of our produce to the Vickery Meadow Food Pantry. It's a very densely populated, ethnically diverse, low-income neighborhood that has limited access to affordable produce. As the food pantry clientele changes, we modify our crops to meet their preferences. 2 of the garden regulars also serve as volunteers at the pantry. They share valuable information about the needs of the community we serve. The pantry, which is open 3 mornings a week, serves up to 80 families each day. The average number of families pre-pandemic was about 30. There are many reasons why our volunteers love to work at the garden. Each volunteer contributes to a great community need for fresh produce. The volunteers learn good garden practices and will often have a garden at home or learn enough to start their own gardens at home. The garden provides educational opportunities in the following areas. Here's a shot of our greenhouse. Obviously, we're ramping that up right now. Greenhouse management and plant propagation, crop determination and seed selection. Our vegetable and herb choices are in support of the diverse clients of the Vickery Meadow Food Pantry. We've learned a lot about growing vegetables that are native to Africa and Southeast Asia. Soil amendment and bed preparation. When it comes to planting, we practice seasonal 4-crop rotation, and we plant in designated areas for root crops, fruit crops, greens, and legumes. We have crops which must be planted with trellis support. We practice some companion planting for the benefit of the plants and to deter pests. We have crops which must not be planted together due to attraction of similar pests. We also have blackberries, fig trees, and pomegranate trees. These are some Southeast Asian vegetables right there. We harvest on Wednesday mornings and take the food directly to the food pantry. That's the first day of the week that they're open. We also have hardscape, which is defined as anything non-living and in support of the garden, which include wood chips, pathways, trellises, hoops, and frost cloth installation during the winter months. Everything has drip irrigation, and we have a wonderful water team headed up by Ned Buxton. They're very conscientious, and they follow all Texas A&M water-wise practices. That's a little shot of our greenhouse. We also have a compost guru, and that's Rick Cope. And nothing goes to waste in our garden, and much of it is composted, including chicken waste from the chicken coops at our school. The garden is a beautiful, peaceful place to congregate with fellow gardeners. The work is low stress, sometimes sweaty and dirty, but the gardeners wouldn't trade it for anything. As our garden continues to grow in importance and production, new volunteers are always welcome. Much can be accomplished with more hands. Drop by either Sunday morning for our work days or Wednesday morning for harvest between 8 and 9 and join us. That's it.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Wendy. Let me see. Now it's time for renewing our door prizes. Here's a list of the winners from the November class. And the reason that we had you reserve your spot to come into this Zoom today was so that Joellen could award the next set of 6 plants that are donated from Roseanne Ferguson at TDG. So Barbara St. Clair, Lisa Meyer, Judy Smith, Janet Lind, Charlie Rolliter, and Shirley Tallis. You've all were winners in November. And Joellen will notify us in February as to who the winners were in March. And that brings us to the end. Joellen, you want to put up the slide for next month? Next month's meeting. It will be Thursday, February 24th, 11:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. at our old location, provided COVID allows, plus a Zoom for those who do not want to go in person. Our speaker of the year is C.A. Hiscock, and her topic will be lessons from the garden. So thank you very much. I know we ran over time, but it was all worthwhile information. So thank you very much.
Yeah, make sure everybody knows it's our awards meeting next month.
Yes, it definitely will be the awards meeting. Thank you. Anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you all.